Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video we're going to be doing episode number 4 on building my 009 scale layout. Now you've probably noticed by now that a fair bit has actually changed since the previous video. I've done a fair bit of work off camera. So I've built all the hillsides obviously, I've ballasted the track, made the level crossing. I didn't bother filming any of it as I've already done videos on doing this sort of stuff, so it wouldn't really make sense for me to repeat it. Like for example, the way I built those hills there, I built those exactly the same way as I built the hills on my HO scale layout, so therefore I felt like I didn't really need to repeat stuff. So if you want to know how I built the hills on my HO scale layout, I'll leave a link up in the corner, because as I said, they were built exactly the same way as I built these. So therefore I didn't feel like I needed to repeat myself. But anyways, this video we're actually going to be focusing on the road. So we're going to make a concrete road, goes over the, it's going to start from here, and obviously it's going to be a little bit here in the corner. It's going to start from here, go all the way down there into the car park, and then up there is going to be a gravel road, which I'll do once I finish the plaster road. So yeah, that's all going to be coming up in this video. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, click on the notifications bell and press all. That way you stay notified for future videos. And also, if this is the first video in this series that you're watching, I highly suggest that you go back and watch the previous 3 videos just to get yourself up to speed on what I've done. But anyways, enough stalling, let's get straight into today's video. Okay, so what we are going to need to make this road is we're going to need some water-based plaster filler. Now I've been using this stuff for a few years now, and in fact the diesel depot, the pavement that I did on the diesel depot, I used this stuff, and I did that probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it's not shrunk or cracked or anything like that. So that's why I've been using this and never had a problem. We'll also need some paving tape, and we'll need a spreader to spread it out and make sure it's nice and smooth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out where I want the road to be, and then I'll get on with laying the paving tape. Okay, so I've now applied the paving tape. Didn't bother filming it as it's quite a fiddly process, but it's now done. So got my spreader, got my filler. Now I've got a spray bottle of water there, as what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the surface first because with the water, because apparently it helps the filler stick better to the surface. That's just what I've heard, so I'm going to do that. And yeah, I'll do a little time lapse and you'll see how I do it all. Okay, so I've now applied all of the plaster for the road. I also applied some of the more plaster over on this hill here. There was a few cracks and things, so that's all been patched up now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this for probably 2 days, roughly, or just depending on how warm it is in here. Will depend on how long it takes to dry. But anyways, I'm going to leave this, and then once it's dry enough, I'll peel the paving tape off, and then we'll give it a sand. I'm not going for a perfectly smooth finish here. After all, it is what I'm trying to model is just a sort of rough road. But yeah, I'm going to leave that, and then I'll sand it. Okay, so it's been a few days since the last clip. Now I decided to wait a few days just to really make sure that the filler dries absolutely rock solid before doing anything else. And good news, no areas of the filler have cracked, which is fantastic. So the next job to do is sand the road surface nice and smooth. Now I don't want to make it super duper smooth. After all, it is well, it's not a well-driven road. Yeah, a well-driven road, I should say, where a lot of cars have been on it. So it's going to have a few imperfections here and there. But yeah, so I'm going to sand this. I've already removed the paving tape. I decided to do that off camera as it's not a very fun job. But yeah, it's time to sand it, and then we'll give it a lick of paint. Okay, so after the first round of sanding, I've removed most of the imperfections. Like, I'm pretty happy with how this has all turned out. I'm not going to touch that anymore. Although I do want to have another go at the station car park, because as you can hopefully see on the camera here, there are a few imperfections. So I'm going to have another go at this, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so I've given that area another going over, and I'm a lot happy with how it looks right now. So I'm now ready to start painting. So what we need to do before we paint is we need to make sure the surface is clean. Now I've already removed the bulk of the dust with the vacuum cleaner, but there is still dust on the surface. So if I just wipe my fingers, as you can see, there's still got dust on the surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some paper towels that have been lightly moistened in water, and I'm going to really make sure that it's 100% dust free and clean for us to apply our paint, because we don't want any dust on the surface when we go to add our paint, as it will mix in with the paint and it won't look good. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll get on with the painting. Okay, so with the surface all clean and dust free, I'm now ready to start painting. So I've just got some grey mixed up in that Tamiya paint jar there. So I'm going to use that just as a base coat, just to sort of get the area covered, and then I'll go in with my final colour afterwards. So got my brush here ready to go. So all that's left to do now is apply some paint. Okay, so I've just applied the base layer of paint to the road. So the next job to do is I'm going to let this dry overnight, and then I'll come in afterwards, once it's dry the next day, with the final shade of grey, because I'm not too sure about this shade. This looks more like a new road. As I said, I'm trying to model like a well-used road, so the shade of grey would obviously be a lot lighter. But this is just a good sort of starting point. But I think while I'm in the groove of painting, I'll paint that plaster there, and just any other areas that could do with a bit of a touch-up with the brown paint. I'm not going to bother filming that, but yeah. Anyways, I'll see you tomorrow when I do the next coat of paint on the road. Okay, so it's the following day now, and this is nice and dry. So the next job to do is, as I mentioned before, I want to paint this a lighter shade of grey. So I've got some acrylic paints here. So I'm going to mix up my own shade of grey. Now I don't want it too light, but I don't want it too dark at the same time. So I'll have a little play around with the paint, and I'll hopefully get a colour that I'm after. Okay, so I've got my paint mixed up, and this is, hopefully the camera picks that out alright. I'm not going for a tarmac look, I'm just going for a well-used sort of road colour. And top tip from me, if you have one of those Oxford die-cast cars or vans, they always come with a lid like this, plastic cover like that. Don't throw that out. Keep it, because it's really useful for things like this, like putting paint in it, or maybe putting some glue, or maybe sort of scenic materials, that sort of stuff. So yeah, don't throw them out. They're actually really quite handy for things like this. So anyways, I'm going to get going with the painting, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so I've applied the first coat of the new grey colour. Very happy with how that's actually looking. So what I'll do is I'm going to let this dry, give it about maybe 10-15, and then I'll come back in with a second coat. Not that it really should need a second coat, but I'm going to put a second coat on it anyways. And then once that second coat is on, we'll let it dry fully overnight before we move on to adding the road markings. Right, so the second coat is on. Again, very happy with how that's come out. So I'll let that dry overnight, as I've mentioned before. And just off camera, what I've done is I've taken some more filler, and over where the bridge is, I've just applied some more, just to get the transition from the hill up to the deck of the bridge a lot nicer. I noticed that the first bit of filler that I applied had sort of sunk a little bit, so I applied a bit more just to smoothen things out. So that's looking pretty good. I'll give that a lick of paint tomorrow once it's all dried, and then yeah, we'll begin the scenery. Okay, so a bit more progress has been made. I have applied the road markings. To do that, I just used a paint pen. I decided not to film it, as I've actually shown how I do it before when I did the video on the level crossing scene on my HO layout, which I'll leave a link to that video up in the corner there, so check that out if you're interested. Anyway, so the road markings are done. They came out pretty good, mostly pretty good, apart from a few areas which I will be fixing up, which I'm going to show you now. Okay, so to do the fix for the bits that are not so great, what I do, get a Sharpie, and I get a fine point pen, and what we're going to do is we're going to create some road repairs. So I'm going to take the Sharpie and pretty much just colour where I want to make my road patch repair, like that. Now you could also use paint as well if you really wanted to, and I just realised there's a little bit here which I'll go over as well. So that's the permanent marker, and then you get the fine point marker, and then if you've seen road repairs before, you'll know how it has like this it's like ring, or not a ring, but like they put this stuff around the patch, like the concrete patch, and it's like a different sort of, and it's like a bit more glossy than the concrete colour, so that's what we're going to represent here. And there we go, that's come out very good. So I'm going to keep going at this for the rest of the bits that I'm not too happy with. I've just noticed that there's this little bit here as well, but yeah, I'm going to keep going at it, and yeah, I'll see you when it's done. Okay, so I've done a little bit more work off camera, and you'll probably notice that some of the patch repairs I did, they're a little bit on the glossier side. Now, not all of them are like this, because I actually went over some of the larger ones with some Tamiya acrylic, as the permanent marker didn't quite achieve the sort of effect I was after. Like the small little ones, I didn't bother with the paint, but the bigger ones, I went over those with the paint. So I'm pretty happy with how those are looking. I was able to fix some of the dodgy road, well, not road, I was able to fix some of the not so great looking lines in the car park, so they're looking a lot better now. And you'll also notice that I've tidied up the brown right up where the road edge is. So now that all this is done, all I need to do now is, well, I can start adding the grass, and obviously I need to wait until this is dry, but that's the next stage. So we'll let this dry and then we'll get on with that. Okay, so after a lot of painting and plaster work later, it's now time to begin the fun part of the layout build, which is to add all the greenery. So let me show you what I'll be using for the base layer of grass that I'm about to apply. Okay, so these are the three colours of grass that I'll be using for the base layer of scenery. So I always apply a base layer before applying static grass, so this is what I'll be using. So I use all from Woodland Scenics, obviously. I use Blender Turf Green Blend, and also Coarse Turf Dark Green and Fine Turf Burnt Grass. So how I do it is I apply a covering of the Blender Turf first, just to get, this basically just covers over the entire area where I want to add the grass. And then I then follow that up with a bit of Fine Turf Burnt Grass in patches. And then I sprinkle some Coarse Turf Dark Green over that to simulate like weeds and things like that. So that's the colours I use. So let's get to applying them. Okay, so as you just saw, I applied all the base layer of grass. Pretty happy with how it's turned out so far, so I think the next thing to do is just basically wait until this is all dry. It will probably take maybe 2 days to dry all up, so I'll come back once it's all dry and then we'll add the static grass. Now you'll also notice that I've only put it in 1, 2 and 3 areas, just because, you know, I want to do, like, I will be putting grass on all the other areas of the layout, but I won't be doing it all in this video. So there will be future videos where I'll be adding more scenery. But I think for this video, just that area, and that area will be absolutely fine. So once this is dry, we'll then begin the static grass work. Okay, so it's now a few days later, and very happy with how the grass is looking. It's all dried now, obviously. Now I could just leave it as is, as it actually looks pretty good, but I'm going to go the extra mile and add some static grass. So you can probably see just there, got my static grass ready to go. So I'll get some glue down and we'll get on with the static grass. Okay, so I've just added all the static grass as you just saw, so I'm going to get the vacuum out and just vacuum up the excess and put it back in the container for reuse. Okay, so I've just put a loco there just to sort of see how it's all going to look, and yeah, so far very happy with how it's looking. So I think this is a logical place to stop for this video. I've done a fair bit in this video actually. We did the road, I glued the level crossings in, and we also did the first areas of greenery. So yeah, so far very happy with how this layout is progressing. Now before I forget to mention, there will be no videos at all throughout April and possibly around mid-May, so it'll probably be around a month to a month and a half of no videos, as I'll actually be overseas. I'll be on a family holiday, so there will be no videos all of April. So for those of wondering when the time does come why I'm a bit quiet during April, well, that's why. I'll be overseas on a family holiday. So but when I come back, I'll no doubt be making videos again. I don't know if I'll be filming anything while I'm away, but I'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, this will be the last video until then. But yeah, hope to see you guys in my next video, which will be again after my holiday, which will be sometime during May. Anyways, I'm going to finish the video off here. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below, and of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe, click on the notifications bell and press all. That way you stay notified for future videos. Anyways, I'll see you all in my next video. Take care, stay safe, and of course, have a nice day. Bye everyone.